I'm Jim Collison, live from Gallup Studios here in Omaha, Nebraska. This is Gallup's Theme Thursday, Season 3, recorded on June 22nd, 2017. Theme Thursday is a Gallup webcast series that dives deep into the CliftonStrengths themes one at a time. And today's theme is, thank goodness, is adaptability. If you have questions, comments, or contributions during this webcast, we do have a live chat room that's available for you. Right below the main video window down there, just look down. You'll see it available. We'd love to have you log in and ask our questions, although Maika will not be watching the chat room today, and we'll tell why here in a few minutes. But you just look down there, the login button, bottom left-hand corner, choose login, choose the guest account, put your name in where it says guest, and hit submit. And that's the easiest way to get into the chat room. We'd love to have your questions live while we are doing this. If you're listening to the recorded version or have questions about custom strengths coach solutions for large, medium, or small organizations, I don't know why I did that backwards, contact us at coaching@gallup.com. Don't forget to visit the Gallup Strengths Center, just gallupstrengthscenter.com, for all your CliftonStrengths coaching resources and training needs. And you can also catch the video in both downloadable audio for offline listening. There we go. For everything that you need around our coaching, we put out on the coaches blog. And by the way, we have a really cool hackathon coming in tomorrow to fix one of the pages. So that's all available on our coaches blog, coaching.gallup.com. Maika Leibbrandt is our host today. You may be wondering why we're hearing all this background noise. We're going to talk a lot about that today. She's coming in from an undisclosed location somewhere on the Eastern Seaboard. Maika, welcome to Theme Thursday.
Hey guys, great to be here. This is going out to say right now, this is going to be the best Theme Thursday there's ever been.
It is going to be good. We a little bit different. Maika, first tell us why. What are you doing today?
Maika, what's going on? Well, I'm calling you on my phone from some Wi-Fi that I'm borrowing from a coffee shop. I'm also leaning the phone on top of a latte against a straw so that it's at the right place. I was called in to host a Gallup briefing that we host sort of all around the world about how we help our clients improve their engagement. And so I got to talk about engagement this morning, but I was in Richmond, Virginia, and the hotel where we hosted it couldn't accommodate a late checkout for me to do the podcast from the hotel. At the same time, something happened at home that meant that I had to be home in time to pick up my kid from daycare later this afternoon, and I'm about a 2.5-hour drive from home. So I got in the car and I drove as far as I could before we went live. And now, in the last 30 minutes, Jim and Jamie and I found the best Wi-Fi, which happens to be at a truck stop somewhere on I-95. So I am thrilled to be joining you in a real demonstration of adaptability.
Yeah, it has been an adaptable morning. We have been doing a lot of just figuring out. Even last week, we changed to bring Jamie on. And so we didn't do any of that on purpose. Like, don't think we did this purposely to just test out the adaptability. But certainly, Maika, we're going to be talking a lot about that today.
Unless you think it works, in which case you're welcome.
Exactly. If it's great, then we take all the credit. So, Maika, before we get to Jamie, let's dig in a little bit and do the best that you can as we think about adaptability. Walk us through the companion guide. By the way, we'll remind you, we make these companion guides available for each one of these Theme Thursdays. They're out on the Theme Thursday page on our coaches blog. They're all available out there for the entire season. If you want to grab, although not the whole season, but most of it. And you can download those and follow along with us, Maika. Let's talk about adaptability.
Adaptability is one of those fantastic themes that I think could go into any one of the 4 leadership domains, but technically we put it into the relationship building domain. And that, I think, tells us a lot about it because it is about presence. It's about responsiveness. If you read the long definition, you see things like living in the moment, like not necessarily worrying too much about the future, but creating that future based on the present. It doesn't mean that you don't have plans. It just means that your best plans are when you get to react to a change. And I have adaptability in my top 5, which probably made me kind of calm in the fact that this was out of the norm. And I think for people with adaptability, they're not quite as married to the norm, but instead they can stay calm and get a lot of clarity when things change. You'll hear people talk about this overwhelming calmness that leaders with high adaptability have. And I was thinking about this actually as I was driving. I was listening to season 1. Kurt Liesfeld and Scott Wright were discussing adaptability, and they used the word calmness a lot. And I was trying to put myself in the shoes of somebody who didn't have adaptability and really wanting to get curious about understanding this. I almost feel like calm doesn't quite describe it. It's more than calmness, it is clarity. It is that chaos brings, or change brings, this amazing ability just to see clearly what the next step, what the most immediate step needs to be. Adaptability is about dealing in the currency of urgency. And if you think about it around that relationship building theme, it really is about being present to the people in the moment, regardless of what the plans were 5 years ago, regardless of where we're going to be 5 years from now. Leaders with high adaptability really can respond to what people need in the moment that they need it. That means that they've got a really high situational awareness, but also quite a bit of emotional awareness, and I think some creativity that comes along with it. One of the things that Kurt mentioned in season 1 was he saw adaptability really easily falling over into the executing domain. Look like that because when everybody else wants to halt, and you'll hear this from leaders, or you'll hear this even in political statements, when things kind of are presenting a challenge or aren't going right, or when we need to figure things out, many people's reaction is to stop everything until we've got it figured out. I think somebody with high adaptability doesn't see that need to stop, because somebody with high adaptability can say, we can continue and we can sort this out because we can focus on who we are, what we need, and where we're going right now. In many ways, adaptability shortens the time span that leaders need to react. I think about adding the word or urgently or presently to how you do everything else when you add adaptability to something. In my personal life, I find that adaptability is one of those themes that complements my other themes just by sort of accelerating the time frame. So now the downside of that can be, in many ways, adaptability is about following, because it's about responding. It's about responding to what's relevant and what's present, what's important in the moment. That can mean sometimes you're more interested in responding than you are preventing or sort of preempting issues. But that also means that you can accept what change is. You can accept very quickly. Perhaps you think about people with high adaptability as just being early adopters, because they see a barrier and a way to get around it. So it's a fantastic theme when you think about it in that sense. Let's talk about, perhaps on top of that, what would a leadership extension of adaptability look like? In many cases, folks with high adaptability deal well if they are changing course very often. So think about this as being somebody who'd be really great at being able to interact with one group of people and then jump into another project and then jump again into something else and really bend and flex and still be authentically present with lots of diverse groups of people. And that is a fantastic leadership trait to have. I think the trick to it, in order to make it helpful to your followers, is to know when you need people to know about your jumping and when you just need to be the one who jumps. So rather than taking all of your followers on this seemingly erratic journey, think about it as even, how you start your list of to-dos in the morning. You probably need 5 things at a time, or 5 things within an hour. Those people who you check in on, those maybe 5 different projects, will feel like they're the only one that you're focusing on if you let it be that way. So I think a lot of the magic of adaptability in leadership is knowing that you need a little bit more change, a little bit more dynamic environment than other people do, and not causing your followers to go through that dynamic change if they're not the type of people who need that. Instead, it's just about being present and flexing your ability to be present. Speaking of adaptability, my computer just died along with all of my notes. So I'm going to do the rest of this just from pure memory. But let's think about what are some of those needs of followers that adaptability could truly speak to. The first need that we talk about is trust. So I think people with high adaptability can build trust by demonstrating their urgency and their ability to focus on the moment. I think sometimes adaptability gets it can sort of look aloof. It can look like, well, I don't really care about the future, and so it doesn't matter. And in leadership, that's not something you want to be able to, that's not the message of adaptability that you want to exude. So think about, you can build trust by really helping people see why the present is important. And I think a lot of times you have a better radar on the present than anybody else does. So if you are changing course and leading people through change, remind them purposefully why it's important to take a beat, to take a moment and take care of ourselves in the moment, versus perhaps staying a course that maybe is no longer relevant. People with high adaptability can build compassion by making sure that you can diversify your ability to be with others. You have this great high situational awareness that's probably going to tell you when different people need different things. Practice that, explore that, expand your reach and your understanding of different people, different cultures, maybe even different industries, so that you expand your toolkit or your arsenal, and you're able to really moment with a lot of different people. We also talk about stability, and I was focused on this on last night, and I almost thought it was like a joke that we would have stability and adaptability in the same place. And then it became incredibly clear that this is perhaps one of the most direct connections is between adaptability and stability, because people with high adaptability can help you see where you're standing right now and can help you see how that can get you somewhere else. It is a little bit of a stretch. It's something you have to do on purpose. But if you've got high adaptability, I think ability by helping people see that one day at a time is an okay way to get to your goals. I think if you align your actions with your values, and I can't wait to talk to Jamie because he also has belief, but talk about why any change in the course of action or why any deviation from the plan is going to help you get to that ultimate goal. If you're leading people who don't have adaptability, that can look like you're straying from what you said. But I think you can create a lot of stability just by purposefully talking about your values or the values of your organization before and during any sort of responsiveness to the present. So our last needs of followers is hope. And I think that adaptability creates quite a bit of hope. And that, when I think about an extension for leaders around hope, it really is just about praise and recognition in the moment. Adaptability gives you a lens on the world that other people just don't have. You can catch things while they're happening. I stayed in a great hotel last night, and all the employees were wearing buttons that said, "Catch me at my best." And I could tell there was some sort of campaign going on about how we wanted to improve, positive feedback or recognition in the moment. I don't know that anybody's better at that than adaptability, because you can stay pragmatic about it. You can stay kind of focused and practical about really what's going on, but you're absolutely tuned in to the now more than anybody else is going to be. So practice your ability to give feedback, both positive and critical, and give it on purpose, because that's going to build hope and help people connect their own personal experience to the larger mission. That's how we build better organizations and better communities. So there you go, from memory without notes, because my computer's dead. A little exercise in adaptability.
Nice work. Heck yeah.
Guys, I'm so excited to introduce somebody else here at Gallup who's got great adaptability. In fact, he's my go-to person when I think about leaders with great adaptability. Jamie, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the program.
No, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Great. Jamie, can you tell us a little bit about what you do here at Gallup?
Sure. I am a IT recruiter. I do a lot of sourcing here in the Omaha area at the Gallup, the mothership, or whatever you want to call it, and look for a lot of people in Omaha and then the surrounding areas. And I try to find really talented IT developers, programmers, all those types of folks to join our organization and live the Gallup dream. So not only here in Omaha, but really kind of all across the country. And I get to do that every day, and I love it. So it's exciting.
Fantastic. Jamie, what does adaptability look like for you?
So for me as a recruiter, I kind of live a roller coaster. Every day is a little bit different. And so I like to, when I'm working on a search, try to find obviously the best people. And when I do, I'm very excited. And then from time to time, they'll make it through. And from time to time, they won't. When I say make it through, I'm talking about hiring someone. And so I have to stay kind of level-headed, and I can't get too up and too down when I find someone that is great, because you kind of never really know what the next step is. For me personally, I just love to, in my personal life, I have, 3 daughters. My oldest is 6, and I have a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old, and my wife is pretty organized and that type of thing. So I just kind of, I live in the moment every day, and I kind of always have as a, when I was younger, and yeah, it's just one of those deals where I just take a lot of energy from kind of living in the present. So.
That's great. Hey, Jamie, what do you think is the value of that? Or what have you experienced, maybe heard from people that living in the moment really does for them?
Yeah, well, so I think that you said it beautifully earlier when you were talking about just, being able to explain to people that it's okay if we've hit kind of a bump in the road. We're going to be all right. You have the experience, the talent to really kind of stay focused. You've done this before, and so I love to just kind of rest on those experiences and the times where maybe I like to think back in the past a lot of the times about how I've done things and how I can kind of get around or maneuver around a situation that might not be ideal. And I'd really like to explain that to people too, that, hey, it's okay if we, like I said, if we hit this bump in the road, you have the talent to make it happen because you've done it in the past and you're going to do it again. And so that's really kind of what I like to tell people all the time. I have positivity in my top 10 too. So I'm always positive. I try to, just steer people in the right direction the best I can.
Do you have people at work who come to you, great partners who really rely on your adaptability? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think so. I work in a department with some really talented folks, and I like to talk to everybody and vice versa. And we'll sit down and just kind of bounce different ideas off each other. And I think that I can kind of bring clarity to a situation when there's times where this isn't going to work. We've tried this before, and we sit down and have a good 10-15 minute conversation and just think about, I'm kind of a devil's advocate guy, I would say, where I'm always saying, hey, what about trying this? Maybe try this, maybe look at it from their lens, because you are probably looking at kind of your own lens and you think that this is the right way. Well, there's a couple different ways to do things, and that's kind of how I operate. So when I have those conversations with people, I like to just kind of talk about the big picture and where you could potentially, look at being a little bit more flexible, I guess.
I think that's a powerful example of that situational and social awareness that we talk about with adaptability. Really, your presence in the moment can also be translated as strategy. Being able to help people see things from different angles because you're paying attention to other people's experience. I got to ask, sometimes I feel like adaptability gets the rap of I just don't care. And in fact, I'll even have this argument with some of my friends with high adaptability, and that, I don't really, it doesn't matter where we go to dinner, what we do this weekend, or which direction our business goes. I have adaptability. Does it mean that you don't care, or how does that filter through for you?
Yeah, it's funny. I always have to tell people, hey, I really care about this stuff. I'm super, super passionate because I do just have kind of this laid back attitude that everything's going to be okay. We're going to make it happen. And I just have a lot of trust in my partners and I think that right away when I start working with folks, I try to build a nice, just a nice trust factor between myself and them and build a nice friendship. And I think most people know that I'm pretty passionate, and I think belief helps me a lot with that, and my maximizer. And so, but from time to time, people are like, come on, McCarville, you're just so laid back. And I'm like, well, because it'll be fine. I promise. Let's make it happen together. So.
Jamie, I'm going to ask you, because you and I do a lot of work together, how do you think you strategically use that adaptability in your favor? Recruiting is a lot like just leading, because you have to convince and persuade, and you've got to bring people in and lead them. And we have a pretty complex recruiting process to get people all the way through. So how do you think you use that to your advantage? How does that adaptability work in your favor?
Yeah, it's great because I like to reach out to folks and really kind of let them feel like they're in control of the situation. When kind of behind the scenes when I'm recruiting, I'm not trying to give away any secrets here if I'm trying to recruit you, but I like to really kind of make sure that I have the reins and I kind of know the direction of where we're going to head. But at the same time, when you're recruiting someone, especially someone as a passive candidate, you want to make sure that they feel like they have all the understanding of the position, they have the understanding of the culture of the organization, really kind of all the important things that someone would need to look at to make a job change. And so I really let them feel like they're leading the the timeline of the hiring, when really I kind of know what we need and what we're looking for, and I can kind of push that along when I need to. So that's really how I use it. And really the other thing about adaptability for me, I don't really worry about if someone has the experience. That's really all I care about. I'm not afraid to talk to anybody. I'll reach out to pretty much anyone if they have the technical skills, the experience, all that good stuff. And so I think that's a perfect fit for me because I'm just open to pretty much everything. So yeah, I don't know. How's that sound, Jim?
Yeah, well, no, I think it's a good, when we think about, you've got these short bursts, maybe 1 or 2 months or 3, or if it could be a longer 6-month relationship. And I think there's a lot of tie-in between what you're doing and the way you have to lead and persuade people, right? Leadership is about getting people to do those things that need to be done. And in your case, you need to bring them through. Do you often think about, we have these needs of a follower and we have to build trust and hope and stability. Do you often, as you're going through that process, do you often think of those, what is going to provide the most stability and how can I adapt so that the candidate is getting the best possible experience? Is it an individualized experience for each and every one?
Yeah, totally. Just a quick story. One of my good friends here who works for us was a student at Kansas, and I recruited him and he started with us and he didn't really know anybody here. And so I had to individualize that and really kind of walk him through and introduce him. And then he just kind of took off. And other folks that I recruit, I don't necessarily have to do that. Maybe they've worked at another organization. They have people they know here. I can just let them come in and kind of take off. And so, I definitely individualize pretty much every single person I recruit, what they need, what we need too, at the same time, from a hiring standpoint and a technology standpoint. So, it's just being real flexible with it. And, there's really no right or wrong way to make it happen. It's just, like I said, I'm pretty comfortable talking to anybody, so it doesn't really matter. And I try to listen to what everybody says and just help them be the best they can be, I guess. So.
Hey, Maika, last week we talked about Woo, and we talked about its influence and its ability to sell. I almost hear in adaptability some similar, the be able to adjust on the fly, especially in Jamie's role, where he does need to get some things accomplished. But that adaptability can come in and really without, it's hard to do without, say the definition without using the word in it, but adapt to every environment and have influence in different ways to get people to move in different directions. So I don't know if we often think of adaptability as a high executing or a high influencing theme, but I do hear that. And as Jamie's talking, I do hear that. Maika, can you respond to that a little bit?
I think the difference is, what are you aiming for? So, we wrapped up our influencing category with Woo, and Woo really is about how do you affect the way that other people feel, versus adaptability is probably, I don't think adaptability is aiming to affect how other people work or how other people feel as much as it is being present and being responsive yourself. That's sort of my initial stab to it. I still see adaptability as being just a really adaptable, a really complementary theme to a bunch of other themes. In Jamie, you can hear it with the belief, you can hear it with the maximizer of, I want to, belief is an executing theme. I want to get somewhere. I want to, get these values out. Maximizer, I want to do the very best thing or help somebody else, set them up for the very best. It sounds like adaptability helps him do that in a lot of different places. And in that sense, adaptability plus maximizer almost looks like individualization. I think the difference is adaptability really doesn't have that need to influence. It just might do that as a residual effect of presence. I don't know, Jamie, what would you say?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I like to really use adaptability, and I think I was telling you this story earlier, Maika, about my wife having a Ranger, and I have a Ranger High as well. And she also has Achiever, but no adaptability. And so for me, with a Ranger and adaptability, I don't necessarily have to make lists or do anything. And my wife does. She's big time achiever and has to have these lists. And she bought a calendar for for our kitchen. And I was like, what is that thing? We don't need that. You know, it's this big whiteboard, and she's writing all the dates on it. She's like, you can write whatever you want up here. I was like, I don't need that. I got it all going on right here, you know? And so I just live in that, in that moment all the time. And I like to use my other strengths just to kind of, to help me out. And every single thing's different for me. I know that, you know, things happen for a reason. You know, I kind of believe in all that good stuff, but at the same time, I just know that nothing's ever going to be the same. I'm not going to recruit somebody the same way. I'm not going to come to work and things are going to work out. This morning, my air conditioning went out. So it's like, you just kind of live for, you know, the moment and what's happening. And I rely on that adaptability to really kind of help me kind of cruise through. So,
you know, it sounds like a theme that really builds resilience. A lot of what I'm hearing is just health because of adaptability. What happens to you when you fail at something, or when a candidate that you love doesn't make it through, or somebody does make it through and then they're awful? I mean, like, what happens when things truly go wrong?
Yeah, that's great. So it's different for everybody. If I have a candidate that I really like that doesn't make it through, I'm mad for literally probably 10 minutes. And then I get over it. And because I have to, because if I sit there and I dwell on it, then it's just going to make me worry about the next candidate. And I can't do that. I just try to get over things as fast as possible. And now there's times where my belief will kick in, and I want to kind of try to see if I can, you know, find a different angle and a different way to play it. But at the end of the day, I kind of come to terms with it, and I've done all I can. And so just move forward.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me, I was trying to think about how to talk about this with adaptability. I have an almost 2-year-old, and I've never regretted one moment. Like, I never felt like in these first 2 years, like I missed anything. And part of that was I've got a great flexible job where I can be present and take 100 photos a day on my iPhone. But I never wished for a different phase of toddlerhood or of babyhood. And that's probably one of the things I'm proudest about. And I realize it has a lot to do with that adaptability of, yeah, sometimes things are awful. And,
right.
You know, when when you've got a young kid, a lot of things are awful. But just like you said, I'm bothered by it for about 10 minutes. And then another moment happens.
Right.
We study moments. There's a Gallup senior scientist who said there's about 10,000 moments in any given day. So it's almost like the present doesn't last very long.
Right. And I totally believe in that. I'm such I told my folks, this is kind of silly. I told my folks about 2 years ago that I wouldn't change anything in my childhood. I wouldn't change anything that ever happened to me. The road that I've taken throughout my entire life, there's been bumps and bruises and ups and downs, but at the end of the day, everything has been exactly what I wanted. And my wife and my kids, you know, my oldest daughter had a pretty rough little surgery when she was younger. But we got through it and it was fine. And so it's just one of those deals where you what did you call it? You just kind of, what did you call it, Micah? I can't remember. Resiliency, right? Resiliency is what you build resiliency in your present, and you just kind of move through it. So it's a heck of a good strength to have and use with other strengths as well. So
when you think about your effectiveness now versus maybe years and years ago, mm-hmm. How has your adaptability gotten more effective? What have you done or realized about it that's made you better?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. Just for me, it's for a long time, I thought I was right about a lot of things because I do have that belief so high. My adaptability and I have responsibility number one too. So it's like when I do things, I feel like I'm doing the right way. But over the last, 5 or 6, 7 years of my life, I've really learned that I've been with Gallup for 4 years. So I really learned about strengths about 4 years ago. So, but over the last couple of years, like I said, 5 or 6 years, I've really learned to listen to others. And as you get older, you kind of say, okay, maybe I don't have everything figured out. When you have 3 daughters, you're kind of like, okay, this is a little bit different than what I thought. So, yeah. And that's helped me just be a lot more even more present to what's happening with others and and really being able to, I don't have empathy very high or includer very high, but I just think about people all the time and what they might be going through and how I could help them, and just to kind of get through and make sure that, everything's going to be okay, even if you struggle a little bit, because, life goes on and there's people here to support you and all that good stuff. So I don't know. I kind of just started rambling there. I apologize.
No, Jamie, one of the things I've appreciated about working with you over the last year in that is that our schedules are never the same, and adaptability 7 or 8 for me. And so I'm constantly changing. We've been a lot of conversation in the chat room about how those high in adaptability, they never get bored. They like constant change. They like things new and fresh. But you and I specifically have been working out together, and our schedules are so different. We have to adapt every single day. And I've had workout partners where it needs to be 4 or 4:15 every day. And if we miss that window, well, it's done. I can't, that's what I got to do. And I've appreciated, working with you from that standpoint. We've really, I've been like, oh, hey, can we move this to Tuesday, or can we do this at a different time, or can we show up here? And you're always just, yeah, let's do this. And we've moved things around. We've adapted plans to make things work for our whole floor at Gallup. We believe in kind of well-being and physical well-being. And we've actually had push-up contests and things on our floor, right, with the folks that we work with. And that's a little bit of an exercise in adaptability. We're all busy with moving parts. And as a leader, you've led some of those initiatives. You've been out in front to make sure we're doing those things. And you've been really good about when people push back, and I do this too, when people push back, I can't do it, we adapt so they can, right? If especially in some of these things, when we think about it's hard to get started in some of these fitness areas, and that people will throw up 1,000 excuses, and I find myself consistently adapting. If you can put those two words together to say, okay, fine. If you can't do it now, when can you do it?
Right.
Like when can we show up? And so I think, Jamie, I've seen you do that a lot, and I've appreciated that in you, where you're willing to say, okay, if it can't be now, when? And not letting, and I think as leaders, Maika, and I'll throw this to you, I think as leaders, it's the ability to not let our followers off the hook, because they think sometimes they'll come up with these objections, and okay, well, fine, then I guess we can't do it. And it's being, it's okay, if we can't do it now, when? Maika, do you see that play in a leadership role?
Yeah, I love the way that you talk about that, because it brings a lot of the hard-hitting piece back to adaptability. It's easy to see adaptability as a follower, but I think it's also an enabler and somebody who can find ways to hold people accountable. It's not an executing theme. It's not responsibility, but it is kind of that. It's perseverance in a lot of ways, and there's it's creativity through perseverance through creativity. I think, never taking no for an answer if you know that it needs to be yes, because there's options. Now those options are different than, say, strategic, where you're thinking about what if. It's different than a ranger, which both of you have, where you're thinking about juggling. Adaptability is saying, let's do all of that by looking at the resources we have right now. So I think you minimize a lot of the grass is greener sort of wish mentality of, oh, if we had the right resources, or if we had more time, or if we had, better technology, then we could do this. I think adaptability doesn't go there first, and maybe doesn't go there ever, but certainly goes to, what do we need to do? What do people need in the moment in order to get to where we want to go?
I really struggle with words like when people say can't or never. When people tell me no about things, I always right away just kind of analyze, okay, why, right away. But then, my adaptability, I can seem to figure it out pretty quick if it's worth pushing for, or if it's okay, no isn't right, just back off, Jamie. But when people tell me, yeah, that's never going to happen, or you can't do that, oh my Lord, that is one of those deals where it's like, okay, you just wait and see. So,
Jamie, how do you respond? Do you think I want to go through that and I want to make it a yes, or is it more I want to find a different way? What do you tend to do?
What I do is I ask a lot of questions. I start asking, okay, if we're never going to do this, why not? What's in the way? What's going to keep us from doing it? And I try to be very, I I guess, almost passive aggressive when I ask it. I'm pretty genuine. I mean, I'm not fake. I'm genuine. I'm asking people questions that they might not want to hear. And then just kind of try to come up with a plan. And if it can happen, then let's do it. And if it can't, if we get to the end and it's like, okay, yeah, here's why we can't, Jamie, then okay. And so that's how I can just process it myself. But when my wife or my coworkers or my friends say, no, we can't do that, it's impossible. Why is it impossible? When you have 3 little kids too, you hear can't all the time, or no, dad, or whatever. And it's like, come on, no, you can do this. Let's go. So it's that resiliency thing that pops back, and perseverance. So, but I just try to stay level-headed. Sometimes I lose my temper, not very often, but from time to time. I'm a former, not a very good baseball player, but a former baseball player in college. And I'm pretty competitive and I like to win. And so I just process it all and I ask questions and try to keep that open mind, I guess. But don't ever say never or can't to me. Otherwise, you're going to be in trouble.
I like the baseball idea, and now I'm going to murder any sports analogy, but you don't take the field without at least having a plan.
Right.
Now, anything can happen, especially in baseball. I mean, absolutely anything at any point can happen, but you probably do a little bit of preparation so that at least how are my teammates going to respond? How am I going to respond? What kind of practice do I need to have? What does that look like for you at work? Does adaptability mean you go in cold all the time because you're best on the fly, or are there certain things that you prepare for?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I kind of get to know I try to build really strong relationships with my coworkers, especially Jim and Jody and, other folks, Sue Pleiss, who we work with, kind of really get to know how they operate and what they think, and just kind of have a good idea of the direction they're going to want to go. But never go in there cold, always kind of having an idea of which way this could go, and then be willing to support them if it's right. And if it's not right, then if you don't feel it's right, don't bite their head off or anything like that. Just say, hey, this is a situation where I think we could potentially look at it this way. And if you build that trust with folks, they're going to listen to you. And here at Gallup, I mean, we're so great about that anyway. Our opinions, chatting with each other and really just bouncing ideas off one another. But I definitely go into, all of my meetings with really whoever it is, kind of having an idea of where I think the conversation or the direction of and I think most people would probably say the same, but if I don't get my way, I don't wig out, so.
Jamie, let me, there's a question, Teresa, in the chat room, and I think this ties into this. I think sometimes we think adaptability is always saying yes. What does no look like when you have to say no and you're not going to change? What does that look like? And maybe you can give me an example of how you do that and how you process that.
Oh man, holy smokes. Like I said, I don't like to say no a lot, right?
But certainly with belief,
right?
There's times you're just gonna say no. I remember while you're thinking about that, I just recently, you said no to me. I was like, hey, we're gonna do some stairs today. You and I have been doing stairs. You said no to me, and I was like, oh, okay, what do I got to do to get you doing this? Like, and eventually you said yes, but your belief, it was great. That was a great day, by the way. Your belief is so high that I know there's times you've got to say no. Can you think through when are those times when and how do you handle that with your adaptability? That's a tough question, by the way.
I
appreciate you struggling with it.
No, I am. That was a good one. When I have to tell people no, it's tough. Especially when I recruit. Let me just give you this example. When I'm recruiting someone and, they're like, hey, I want to work from home, or, maybe it just won't work out. And I have to, maybe I didn't have the answer when I started recruiting them, or I was recruiting them and I was selling them and trying to get them to come and, and then I get them there and it's like, okay, yes, we can do this, Jamie. I'm interested now. But then I go back and I find out maybe I didn't have all the information, and this position requires something else, maybe a relocation, or maybe it requires a specific degree or specific amount of experience, or we changed it up or whatever it might be. And then I have to go back and say, hey, listen, sorry, but this isn't going to work out. Now that you would think that would crush someone, right? You would think that would be like the toughest thing for anyone to deal with. And I would struggle having those conversations. I don't. Do I like them? No, I don't think anybody would like a conversation like that. But again, resiliency, perseverance, go through that whole thing. 10 minutes later, I'm on to the next person. Now, it's not that I don't care about that person and that I built that relationship, because I definitely do. And I try to send them a nice note, thanking them for their time. And if they need anything, let me know. But you can kind of upset some people, and I don't really like to do that. But it's just part of my gig.
So you move on from that, right? I mean, it hurts in the moment, but
right.
You've quickly moved on kind of to the next.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got to move on. A little bit of a mechanism, and you're right. In your role, there's sometimes you've got to say no.
Yeah, yeah. I don't like to. Obviously, I like to get people to come work at the greatest place ever. But at the end of the day, I have to. So it's rough. Saying no to you. Saying no to you, Jim, about stairs. Now Sally was in on that too. You both. I was ready to be done for the day, but I was going on vacation for a couple of days, so it worked out.
We drug you in the stairwell.
I'd say no to stairs too.
Oh.
I don't know if this is a adaptability wide answer for that question, but I was just thinking, Jim, about how I might answer that. What does no look like? And the truth is, I say no very rarely, because the yes is usually something that people need. And I think a lot of that relationship building thing is, if people are brave enough to ask you for something, you're excited to give it to them, and you find a way that you can. But I've never doubted a no. When it's no, I know it. Like, I feel like I've got really great clarity, and I only say no when I know that it matters. And I think about, I'm trying to find a work example. It's not just parenting, but a lot of we get a lot of blog submissions for our blog, and it's my job to say yes or no to some of those. And it's always really, really clear which ones I say no to, and it's usually because they're just not true to the integrity of StrengthsFinder. But then I think back to, like, one of the things that has been really hard with having a toddler is I feel like there's so many things you're supposed to say no to kids for that I don't really know why. And so I'm a pretty permissive parent, because I feel like I've got a clearer understanding of what really, really matters and what's no for the sake of no. And I tend not to just say no for the sake of no.
No, that's great.
I'm going to regret that when Simon's 16. Like, he's going to play this back and be like, Mom, come on.
No, that's really good. I mean, I'm the same way at home. I let my kids kind of run wild. My wife's like, why are they playing in the dirt? Like, what are you doing letting them sit in the dirt and throw water on each other and making mud? I'm like, who cares? They're kids. Let them have fun. It's not that big of a deal. We'll wash them off. So,
Jamie, who's your best partner when you think about pairing with that adaptability that you have? Who are your best partners?
Well, you and Jody, Sue Pleiss. Sue Pleiss is unbelievable.
Jamie, think about it in terms of strengths, though, because people don't know. I mean, they they don't know those people. Which themes pair best with your adaptability?
Strategic, for sure. Strategic. I love maximizers. Activators, big time. They get me fired up. Let's see here.
Hey, Jamie, if I can jump in. I think about great partners. My best partners bring me in when I need to act and not before. They set me up so that I can respond urgently. And they understand if we've had a meeting about something that's going to happen in 3 weeks, and then the night before, I have to ask for all the notes again. Because it doesn't exist until the moment. So that's one thing that, beyond strength, just a practice that I think you can do to honor adaptability in other people, is let them respond urgently.
Yeah. And responsibility for me is super important in what I'm doing. I have found myself in the last couple of years really gravitating towards those themes in people who have that responsibility. Maika, you and I, when we get together, some of the best ideation, some of the best collaboration, some of the best living in the moment, a lot of what you see on Theme Thursday and Call to Coach is that incredible synergy that we have to be able to just ideate without boundaries and adapt and change. And the program works because we do that. But both you and I think, and Jamie, I think you would agree on this as well. For those people who get things moving or keep them moving or are responsible to make sure they're done right, are super important partners. And I just think that's a really important piece in this adaptability equation. that if we don't, because the three of us together, it could be super messy, right? in that, but you mentioned a few names, and Jody's my partner, and Sally, you mentioned those. We work with them. Both of them have this high responsibility, and we do, whether we know it or not, we tap that responsibility all the time to make sure we're getting stuff done.
So I would say ideation too, as you talk about that. My first go-to when I started here said, hey, don't hang yourself on things you can't get done. Just do what you're best at. Don't try to recreate the wheel. Just do what you're really good at. And he's like, if you need ideas, just let me know. I'll find them for you. There's plenty of ideas around here. And he did. And he said, here you go. And just act on it. And if it stinks, throw it away. But if it's great, jump on it and make it happen. And so that's something that I've hung on to for 4 years, where I know he had ideation and input really high, and he would just spew information at me. And I loved it. Most people would be like, gosh, he's micromanaging. What's happening here? Blah, blah, blah. Where to me, it was like, bring the noise, man. I love that information. So it was a great go-to. Mike McDonald, by the way.
Mike gets a shout out. Very, very nice. Love working. Mike's now on our floor as well. And it's interesting, Maika, and you can talk a little bit about this here as we get close to wrapping this thing up. One of the things, because we're so hyper aware of these strengths that we have here at Gallup, it's people ask me all the time, do you drink the Kool-Aid? And absolutely, we bathe in it, right? And I think I have a strengths conversation. I would used to say every day. I'm thinking lately it's been about every hour. Those come up in our conversations, and so that is one of those things I think as we think about strengths-driven cultures inside organizations is, man, it is so powerful and effective when we have these very open conversations about who we are, and then can quickly maximize based on, how do we take advantage of those? I have the interns doing that right now. We're in every conversation. It's like, all right, what's your top 5? And this is how do we figure out how to take advantage of that? And so, Mike, it is incredible as we work together, this hyper awareness. And you forget when we go outside of companies where people struggling with that. I'm like, it just doesn't happen. I'm coming up on 10 years. So I bet as you're teaching, you see that as well, Maika, with folks coming in.
Yeah. And, I think there was a question that you asked Jamie earlier that I really just think sort of summarizes strengths in a movement. And you said something about, how do you do more of that? And if you want, regardless of whether you have adaptability or not, if you're listening to this right now, ask yourself, what do your strengths make you? Do they make you adaptable? Do they make you present? Do they make you responsive? That would all be adaptability. And then the follow-up question should constantly, every hour of every day, be, how can you do more of it? Because they're not just what makes you awesome. They're what we need to expect from you. They're your best foot forward, your best potential. So, the question around adaptability is, if it makes you present, what do you need to do to be more present? Or, with responsibility, if it makes you make all the pieces fall into place, how can you do that more? And that answer should be something within your reach. It should be something as simple as possible. It could be something like slow down and do it on purpose. But I think that's why it works, is not just because we speak the language and shower in the Kool-Aid. It's because we've got a bunch of people who truly care about being curious and putting the stuff to work. People like Jamie, who's really making it work.
Well, thanks. I try, I guess, right?
Well, you do. That's the good news about it. Maika, final thoughts as we kind of bring this in for landing. What an exercise you have done.
I got to show you my final thoughts. Let's just check this out. Okay, so this is where I am right now. Hello, everyone. This has been just so much fun. And if I may just shoot my own adaptability example, it has not felt like I was sitting in a truck stop with you guys. Adaptability can be present in the moment. I mean, I saw like toddlers tripping right in front of me, and I wanted to reach out, but which is why adaptability and focus probably don't happen together very often. But thank you for this has been the biggest pleasure to be able to get through all these hurdles. It's so fun for my adaptability, but I've learned so much. You bring a lot of the real executive leadership aspects of adaptability to light today when you talk about here's how you strategize, here's how you're resilient, here's how you help people see things that they didn't know that they saw. And that's leadership day in and day out. So Jamie, thanks for being an awesome example of adaptability with me today.
Well, thanks for having me. It was great. I appreciate it.
No, Jamie, great having you. We'll remind everyone to take full advantages of all the resources we have available at the Gallup Strength Center, just gallupstrengthcenter.com. Send us your questions or comments. Maika was mentioning earlier about the coaches blog, and we are taking your submissions. If you have a 400 to 600 word idea, something around strengths, we'll help you with that as well. We'd like it fully formed and some, written out, as well as original. But send those to us if you have them, coaching@gallup.com, in an email. You'll work with Maika. And I think, Maika, we just post one today or yesterday? I think it was yesterday. That
from Chad.
Yeah, Chad came from the community, right? So if you haven't checked that out, head out to the coach's blog, coaching.gallup.com. If you're interested in becoming a Gallup certified strengths coach, we have a list of all of our courses that lead to that certification, and Maika works in that process as well. In fact, she will get to see many of our coaches that are working towards that Gallup certification at the CliftonStrengths Summit that's coming up July 17th, 18th, and 19th. It's not too late, but it's getting pretty close. So if you haven't registered for it yet, or you're thinking about doing it, today might be the day to get that done. You can get all the details, CliftonStrengthsSummit.com. And of course, all of our courses are available on our courses site, courses.gallup.com. If you found this helpful, we'd ask that you'd share it. I want to thank everyone for coming out and being very adaptable with us today. We appreciate you guys putting up with the shenanigans of just trying to get everything working. And we appreciate you coming out today. We'll look forward to the next Theme Thursday. And with that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.